thank you, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you in your beautiful area, and to be able to enjoy. I know you enjoy your setting here, and I know you can enjoy your wildlife neighbors. And it's certainly possible to consider what can be done to make welcome the bird life that lives here with you. Many of the qualities of this area that you enjoy are the qualities that the birds need to live here at the higher elevation with cooler temperatures, and habitat which they prefer. So, the qualities that you know about are the trees, like the ponderosa, the narrow-leaf cottonwood, up here aspen, maybe golden currant and mountain mahogany bushes, and the grasses. This picture is actually taken looking north off the back deck at our home. Those of us that live in the foothills and in the mountains are really fortunate to have the qualities that we enjoy and that we can share with our wildlife neighbors. The colors have really been great this year, haven't they? The aspen are really orangey as well as yellow. I noticed up here the willows and the willow cars along the drainages are really beautiful. The aspen colors are great, and here in the aspen, this aspen is a Townsend solitaire, a member of the thrush family, which you no doubt can find up here. A real interesting bird. When you just observe it, it looks like it's kind of a grayish bird, but this Townsend solitaire looks like it's just a gray bird from a distance. When you look at it close, it's got that dramatic eye ring and subtle differences in the grays and that chestnut color wing bar. So it's a real interesting bird. They tend to sing in the middle of winter. This little ruby-crowned kinglet is on ponderosa. And even dead snag trees occasional snag trees are great to keep around. They stand for a long time and are a good purchase for a lot of birds and a source of nest holes for a lot of them too. This orange-crowned warbler is in a river birch. So there's a lot of different vegetations native vegetations that we can use on our properties to welcome birds while making sure there's defensible fire spacing. This robin is enjoying chokecherries, and this warbling vireo is in a alder. The golden currant, here's a bush that's alongside our house, is a beautiful plant, and it provides a dense cover for birds all through the year. This gray catbird is secluding itself deep within a golden currant bush. This is rabbit bush, and it's a real source of food for birds and cover in our yard. Blossom, they're a great attractor to monarch butterflies. Mountain mahogany is a good cover bush too. The wax currant bush, with its pink blossoms, is a favorite of hummingbirds. The broad-tailed hummingbird, which is the breeding species here, a lot of times a male will adopt wax currant bush as its personal territory and sit on top of it and defend it heavily against other male hummingbirds and fly out from it to hawk insects or catch insects in the air. In the indirect sunlight, the gorge, the chin patch, looks black, but when it reflects sunlight, it looks red. Iridescent red, and boy, they know how to use that. They will flash that to, as you can well imagine, attract females. And also they use it aggressively against other competing males or other threats. The female also will use little plants or plants that have fluffy seeds like the white pussy toes to build their nests. And you can see the white fluffy material in the interior of the nest, and it's woven together with the spider webs that you see and lined on the outside with bits of leaves or lichens that camouflages it. And made of those materials, as the nestlings grow, it stretches to accommodate their size. As I mentioned, the broadtail is the breeding species here. The black-chinned also occasionally will breed here too, whereas the calliope with its beard-like gorge and the rufous, which is very orangey, migrate through in migration. Consider two grasses. Grass seeds are very good attractants for the birds that eat seeds, like this blue grama or the beautiful side oats grama. And the other element that the birds need is water. And this songbird has searched out some open water in the middle of winter to drink. And here, a couple of robins, American robins, are drinking. These robins were trying to get a little water from this little pool of water that had frozen, had a little icy top to it. So I think up here, I was talking with Russ, I think a real limiting factor for you up here for attracting birds may be the water. You probably are careful with your use of water anyway, but a refillable bird bath or a little pool that you can line to keep the water in and have a recycling little pump that keeps the same water going may be a real value to you and the birds that would then really like to use it. Interestingly, these two robins, if you notice the one on the left is very pale, it's a Neo-Arctic bird. It's an individual that probably bred far to the north, and they come down in the winter, and they always seem spookier too. Whereas the one on the right is a neotropic bird with more bright coloration, and it is one that might stay around the winter, but may very well go south and migrate south for the winter. If you feed birds, feed them bird seed, why, there is a real need to keep the bird feeder high and bring it in at night, because black bears learn where sources of food are, and they'll return again and again, and we can responsibly not keep from being in conflict with our bear neighbors that are here if we take the measures that keep them from thinking people are a source of food, which would endanger us as well as endangering them. And along with bird feeders, why you want to be sure and keep pet food inside, keep barbecue grills inside. Some information says, or clean them, and you can spray them with Clorox water, but that's hard to get rid of all the scent, so it's better off to keep them inside. Also pick up any fruit, if you have fruit trees, off the ground so they don't come in and seek fruit. There are different ways of how do you tell one bird species from another? Well, one way is from coloration, and this male western tanager is an obvious bird just by its overall coloration. But birds also may have a obvious color feature called a field mark that helps you identify one bird from another. This Williamson sapsucker has this huge white wing patch, and that is a field mark. Williamson sapsucker, as an aside, is an interesting species. The Williamsons is an extreme example of dimorphism between the male and the female. That is, they have two different forms or colorations. The male is an example of eruptive coloration. Its striped head and big white wing patch and yellow breast breaks up its silhouette, so it's harder for a predator to zero in on it. And the female has cryptic coloration, that is, coloration that blends in with its environment, its habitat. So there are other birds that have different forms, but this is this species is an extreme example. They're so different that for a long time it was thought that there were two separate species that just closely associated. And it wasn't until it was realized just how closely they associated that it was realized that they were the same species. Another way you can separate birds is, instead of by their coloration, is by their silhouette. This American crow and the common raven are both black. So you can't go by their coloration to tell them apart. The raven is much larger, but also note its beak is very heavy compared to the crows. The crow is eating a plant seed, and the raven, its heavy beak enables it to be a more heavier scavenger. It really goes after carcasses of winter-killed elk or deer. Tail of the raven has an arrow-shaped or rounded shape end of the tail, compared with the crow, which is straight across. You can see in flight. And the raven has a harsh croak, and the crow has a caw. Both of them, I want to talk in a little bit about vocalizations, and both of them really communicate between individuals of their species. There was a question about woodpeckers. There are several woodpecker species that you might find, along with the Williamson sapsucker that we had a look at. Another woodpecker family species is the red-naped sapsucker. The sapsuckers drill sap wells in alders or river birches or and then they eat the sap that seeps into the wells, and they eat the ants especially that are attracted to the sap. Another woodpecker species is a little downy woodpecker, and it looks very similar to the hairy woodpecker, but note the difference in length of the bill in relation to the head. The downy is a very short bill, and the hairy is a very long bill in relation to the portion of the head, and the hairy is a larger bird. The three-toed woodpecker is unique in that it has yellowish coloration instead of the red that most of the other species have. This is the red-shafted flicker, and it's the one that gets in trouble because it drums on and drills holes in the side of your house, and it eats a lot of ants, and it's a beneficial bird too, but you can use aversion therapy on it to discourage it from doing that. Take a towel and wad it up tight and then throw it at it. About the time it gets up close to it, it comes apart in a big scary shape that conditions the flicker not to be there. Or you can throw a tennis ball at them. It's against the law to shoot any perching bird. Littler species that also climb around on the bark of trees include the nuthatches, and they take advantage of the holes that the woodpeckers drill for nest holes, and they live in them. This is a little pygmy nuthatch, the smallest of the three typical species that we have here in the mountains. Real stubby tail, kind of plump little guys. And this is the red-breasted, and this is the white-breasted. And they're really acrobatic and walk up and down, or walk down as well as up on the bark of trees. Corvids, the jay family birds, include the black-billed magpie, which I saw a large group flying around today, probably a lot of siblings and as well as parents from the nesting of the season. Very intelligent bird, as all the corvids are, and they're so intelligent they feel very confident in being around us and not thinking that knowing they can get away with it, and they can also feel like they can get away with perching on the back of elks to eat bugs and seeds that the elk may have picked up. Steller's jay that you have here, and I know you're probably all familiar with. Such a beautiful bird. The Steller's jay and magpies and some of the other corvids are, as well as the crow and raven that we saw earlier, will prey on other birds' nests, eating the eggs and nestlings. Another corvid is the gray jay, sometimes called camp robber, because they are quite friendly. And this is the Clark's nutcracker, a real unique species of corvid. That heavy beak allows it to dig into pine cones and dig out the seeds. And they're such an intelligent bird, has such a great memory. They cache those seeds from limber pine especially they like, and ponderosa, cache them and bury them in the ground, and then they remember where those caches are and come back and eat them, use them for food during the winter. And the western scrub jay is a interesting species, has a very frenetic behavior, jumping around, not staying long in one place. I think maybe that it uses that may help it in scaring up prey. There was a question about blue jays, why you're seeing more blue jays up here. I assume up here is what you meant. Blue jays are a more eastern species, but especially with urbanization, they've been moving westward, and maybe up here because of that, and with the increased, or with the warmer temperatures of the climate disruption of global warming, why this species can feel more comfortable at higher elevation. The thrush family includes the hermit thrush, which has a beautiful song, and the western bluebird, which, as I was telling Russ, I scouted around a little bit before tonight, and I found a group of western bluebird that were still hanging around, and took some pictures of them. If anybody needs proof, I've got it. And of course, there's the mountain bluebird. About 3-4 years ago, there was a heavy, after the bluebirds were showing up in Rocky Mountain National Park and higher altitudes, there was a blizzard, and the bluebirds couldn't find insects to feed on, so they migrated down laterally, down slope into lower altitudes, and there was a blizzard going on down at lower altitudes too, and they couldn't find food, and there was a pretty good die-off of bluebirds that they just in the last couple seasons, or last season, have shown significant recovery. And other birds, this little house wren. Birds are interesting. A lot of different birds can use the same area for living in, making a living in, and breeding in, because they differentiate spatially, that is, in space, at different levels. The house wren forages for insects along the ground, and the green-tailed towhee forages in the same area, but for seeds. So they differentiate by what they eat, too. So all this enables them to not be in direct conflict with each other. The little flycatchers, like the western wood pewee, perches on little exposed limbs and trees about this level. Indeed, they fly out from those favored branches and hawk insects or catch insects in the air. So the flycatchers are great at catching a lot of insects, flies, even mosquitoes. So, and I didn't include a picture of some of the Empidanax, which are hard to separate. The cordilleran, dusky, Hammonds, willow flycatchers on that family. Tree swallows and violet green swallows fly high in the air, higher, to catch insects. Different birds use different food. This red crossbill reaches into a pine cone with its bill, grasps the seed, and then as it closes over it, the bill crosses, spreading the petals apart to make for easier extraction of the seed. And the raptors, or birds of prey, include the accipiters, birds that eat other birds. And this young sharp-shinned hawk is enjoying a meal of a slate-colored junco. Kind of makes you hungry for refreshments, doesn't it? And here it is after it's eaten, and you can see its gorge is really full. And here's a mature sharp-shin with mature coloration at the nest. The darkness on the head continues over the back of the neck, and the tail in flight is straight across compared to the Cooper's hawk, which looks very similar and generally is larger, although there's some overlapping in size. The other accipiter is the northern goshawk. Now, I've never been able to catch a photograph of a goshawk, but this book was recently put out by Scott Rashid, who has a research permit in Rocky Mountain National Park and does research on small mountain owls as well as the northern goshawk. The booteau hawks are represented by the red-tailed hawk, which Russ said he had one fledged some offspring near his house this season. So they tend to be rodent eaters. And on cliffs, there are the golden eagles. They're huge nests. And vultures, the turkey vulture, flies, soars around using its sharp sense of the smell to find carrion to clean up. And the bald head helps the sun kill off bacteria on its head from where it's been feeding. And as I was scouting around, I found an American kestrel up here. They probably winter. This one dining on a plump vole. Owls include the great horned owl. I bet you have some up here. And you probably have the small mountain owls like the saw-whet. You probably have northern pygmy too. Grouse family birds include the dusky grouse. It used to be called the blue grouse before it was found. Actually, that name was actually used for two different species. And the wild turkey, I don't know whether you have small birds of perching birds or passerines include this largest of the warblers. It's actually probably a different family, yellow-breasted chat, and I bet you might have some of those up here. They have this series of chuckles and calls that they make, and in spring, when they're hyped up on hormones in breeding season, why, they'll sing all night long. And there's the mountain chickadee, which you no doubt have, eating a little seed. The gray-headed junco. At higher altitude, the gray-headed junco is the color form that is up here, and at lower altitudes, you tend to have the Oregon slate-colored and white-winged juncos that are the other color forms of the dark-eyed junco species. And here's a white-crowned sparrow carrying a lot of insects on its way back to feed the kids. The yellow-rumped warbler is a common warbler, and this is a frontal view, but it indeed does have a yellowish rump, upper tail coverts. The cedar waxwing is a beautiful bird named for the waxy blob on the tip of the secondary wing feathers. This is a female, black-headed grosbeak, which you may have up here. The male tends to have an all-black head and much brighter orange breast and blackish back. The Wilson's warbler, it kind of prefers more riparian habitat, water-related vegetation. So I don't know whether you have those up here or not. You might check in the willow cars and around the little lakes. Cassin's finch, both male and female sing. Pine siskin are in the finch family. Has the yellowish wing bar and yellowish colors. The American goldfinch and the lesser goldfinch. So those are small mountain, smaller passerine birds. Speaking of the bird songs, birds do have different vocalizations. They have the songs for the songbirds, and that's a way you can tell one bird species from another. And they also have companion calls. You hear crows or ravens are doing that, especially as an example. But one bird will say, "Here I am, where are you?" And they check back and forth with each other with companion calls. Nestlings have begging calls at the nest, which sometimes gets them in trouble because it attracts predators. There are aggression calls. In spring, you can see male robins chasing each other around, trying to drive each other off the territory, and they may use aggression calls against a perched owl if they find it. Those are things that are calls, vocalizations that are kind of normal within the habitat. But if anybody gives an alarm call, why everybody stops and tries to figure out what's being seen, because somebody may have seen a predator. So there are a lot of bird species that can be our neighbors that we can enjoy where we live, and encourage them to live by providing them the things that they need to make them welcome, and that they need to find shelter and food and water, and be fed and avoid being food. So I hope that you can enhance your pleasure of living in the beautiful community where you live by enjoying the bird life. So it's been a real pleasure being with you, and I'm happy to answer a few questions. Feeding isn't really real necessary. It's good for attracting the birds to see what birds are around and enjoy seeing them. Same way with hummingbird feeders. If you do feed, I would recommend white proso millet and sunflower seeds, especially oil sunflower seeds. You can get sunflower chips too, and then you avoid the buildup of debris shells. Yeah. A lot of the birds have migrated out now, the ones that are here just for breeding season, and others will continue. More will continue to leave, but you can still enjoy the year-round residents that will be here. They are stimulated to go ahead and migrate by the shorter periods of daylight. As long as there's food, they're tempted to stay. And I would mention on hummingbird feeders, there's an old saying that you take in your hummingbird feeder at Labor Day, but that all of a sudden cuts them off and stops them from feeding up and getting fat reserves. So they'll leave when the shorter daylight lets them know to leave, and so feed them as long as they're here. And then in the spring, the longer days will be increasing the proper hormones to have them coming back up here to greet you in the spring. The Christmas bird count run for a day during the count period that's in a lot of the latter part of December into the first week of July. And it's a 15-mile diameter. A count is conducted in a 15-mile diameter circle, and there's a lot of circles. See, there's a red feather count, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Yeah. And the Rawhead power plant count. There used to be a Pawnee grasslands count. I don't know if that's still run. I compiled the Longmont count. There's a Boulder count, and a Fort Collins count, and a Loveland count. So teams of observers go out with specific assigned areas and count all the species and the number of each species that they see. So it's an effective collection of data that enables the study of the different demographics of bird movements over time. So it's been run over 100 years now. The teams are made up of somebody that's pretty knowledgeable that you can go with and have fun. There's always somebody that knows more than you do. Somebody knows less than you knew about birds. And it doesn't matter, you just go and you just have fun. Your eyes are helpful in observing. And that information is used by a lot of government agencies and non-government agencies in planning. Swallows are very aggressive, and house wren are too, at taking over bluebird boxes. I noticed bluebird boxes around. I stopped and checked one on the Scout Ranch Road. It was full to the brim, had a little dead bluebird in it that probably couldn't escape to the hole because the box was so full with yearly nests. So bluebird boxes need to be cleaned out before each breeding season, so that the birds like to build the nest anew. And if they're cleaned out and sprayed with some Clorox water spray, I saw a insect I couldn't catch up with to see what it was, but the birds do have mites and bird louse that can infest them and can kill nestlings. So the houses kind of use your judgment. They need enough separation that they don't feel like they're directly competing with each other. And it's good. They like a setting for a box that is on the edge of trees where they can look out into an open space to fly out into to catch insects. So that's the sort of setting that they use. A lot of the bluebird boxes you see are along the road, and that makes them easy for access to clean them and care for them. But it may not have that sort of setting that they need, so some boxes may get used and others don't get used. Okay? You bet. Thank you.